Let's come to the truth about NATO. There's no such thing. The EU, there's no such thing. The EU and NATO are the same thing. The European continent is full of a bunch of vassal states and colonies for the US empire. If they got to talk to them one at a time, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass. So they created an umbrella organization. EU is the umbrella organization that allows the United States to control the economics of the European Union. NATO is the organization that allows the United States to control the foreign policy, the military policies of the European states. That's all it is. That's all NATO is. It's just something to bring the colonies together. So instead of have to call them separately, you can have them all in one room. Same with the EU. And you know what? Because what's going on right now? The US says to the EU, let me tell you something. Come in this room, idiots and suckers and dupes. Yeah, and von der Leyen and these other idiots are coming in there. Bojo, what a flipping clown he is. So the U.S. says to Olaf Scholz and a collection of the stupidest idiots, I don't even know what planet these people are on, brings them in to the EU meeting and says, here's the plan, guys. You ready? Yeah. Okay. I want you to betray the people of your country. What we're going to need to do is we're going to need to do some economic things. It's going to wipe out the standard of living, turn your entire continent into a third world. Hey, you ever seen a zombie movie? Yeah, my favorite is The Walking Dead. Yeah. You're starting to understand where I'm going then. That's what we're going to do with Europe. We're going to turn it into The Walking Dead. Deindustrialization, you guys sell cars and stuff, Volkswagen, things like that. Yeah, not anymore. You don't. That bullshit's over. Steel, yeah. How about chemical plants? You got chemical plants? Oh, we've got great chemical plants. Yeah, well, you had great chemical plants. That shit's over. Effective immediately, you are going to effect policies that's going to destroy and wipe out the way of living for all of your people. And they're like, oh, certainly, sure, why not? Oh, one more thing. Yeah, we're going to flood you with refugees from Eastern Europe. Hey, great idea, because we won't have enough food. Our people will be restless. And what else better than a bunch of damn refugees? Maybe 5 or 6 million of them be good? Sure. Hey, could you make a few of them goose-stepping Nazis? Great idea. Meanwhile, you've had 2 world wars. Here's what we're going to do. The country that has beat the shit out of everyone. You recall France. You recall Napoleon had a little bit of issues with the Russians, didn't he? Yeah, not so good. The Russians ended up in Paris. Hey, Germany, how'd that work out? Yeah, Russians ended up in Berlin. So let's see. You guys attack Russia, and they end up in your capital. Pretty much that's the dynamic. You attack Russia, they end up in your capital. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start a war with Russia. Oh, really? And what do they do? What are these Stoltenberg, Doltenberg, the rest of these freaking idiots? Great idea. How could that possibly go wrong? And then they called Finland, 1,300-mile border with Russia. Hey, Finland, you want to join NATO? And Finland says, first of all, Boris Johnson goes to Finland and says, we will protect you from Russia. The UK? The UK, how about this? A month ago, a guy by the name of retired General Barron, Barron, look it up. This guy goes before Parliament and they asked him, they said, well, what would happen if we had to go to Latvia? They specifically said Latvia, and protect Latvia from the Russian military. And he said, the Russian Air Force would destroy our entire military within probably about a week. We'd last about a week. We'd be wiped out. So that's how the UK would stand up against the Russian military. A week. Remember, we're supposed to believe that the Ukrainians are winning now. Okay. I live in the United States. I live in the state of Maryland. State of Maryland's great. It's one of the wealthiest. Most of the time, it's either the wealthiest state or tied for the wealthiest state in America. Maryland's a small state, but it's very densely populated, highly educated. It's a great place to live. Beautiful. I live right next to the Chesapeake Bay here, and the Chesapeake Bay is absolutely beautiful. Grew up in this area. Get on my bicycle, ride down to the when I was a kid, ride down to the water every day and go fishing and crabbing and swimming and boating. Oh, it's wonderful, right? We have about, in the state of Maryland, 6 million people. Small state, but pretty populated, right? Okay, 6 million. We got about 500,000 people more than the entire country of Finland. So I'm supposed to believe. And that Finn said they're not afraid of the Russian military. Really? Really? They'd like send a platoon. The Russian military would send a platoon of guys over to Finland and like probably, an armored personnel carrier. They wouldn't even be armed. They'd send a bunch of guys over with, batons to straighten Finland out and get them in order. Come on, 5.5 million people in your country on the border of Russia, and you're not afraid of the Russian military? These people are morons, idiots. They have had a treaty with the Russians for like 70 years that they're going to stay neutral. And all of a sudden they wake up one day, we're not afraid of the Russian military. We'll stand up to them. Well, we've got 5.5 million people in this country, roughly the same as a couple of stadiums on a Sunday NFL morning. The leaders of Europe are the stupidest people in history. So the Biden administration has convinced the stupidest people in maybe even the history of humanity, of any creatures that ever have crawled out of the mud, the stupidest people ever, they're just wiping out their own economies. And that's the way. Look, if you're going to wipe out your own economy and the people don't like lynch you or something, or you come at the guillotines, come on. If you're going to do something then the people in the country, I mean, it's pitchfork and torch time in as far as I'm concerned. And if the people in Europe, who half of them are running around with waving frickin' Ukrainian flags, propagandized to know not what. So you've got these people running around with a bunch of Ukrainian flags. I'm going to say this. Next winter, I hope you got a nice thick Ukrainian flag that you can use for a blanket, or maybe you can boil it and make blue and yellow soup out of it, because you're going to be cold and hungry. Trust me, next winter, you're going to look back and say, perhaps in hindsight, maybe we should have thought a little bit differently when we were launching every sanction in the world against the Russians. And the Russians are going to be sitting over there in Russia, toasty warm, eating their borscht and cod with cheese and potatoes and all the stuff the Russians just love to eat, drinking their pear soda. They're going to be happy. They ain't running out. Trust me, the Russians ain't running out of gas. They grow their own food. Number one wheat producer in the world. They'll be eating baguettes. The French will be eating the bags. So they're going to be fine. They can grow their own food. They can produce their own energy. And they're still friends with like China and India. So they can still do trade and get everything they need. And the people of Europe are going to be cold and hungry, and maybe perhaps they'll put down their blue and yellow signs and they'll ask, how this was this worth it? What is it that Russia wanted again? Oh yeah, they just wanted us to get the hell out of Ukraine and stop coming to their border and building military shit. In hindsight, maybe that wouldn't have been such a bad idea. Well, too late now. You're going to be cold and hungry. Good news, they found a way to decrease obesity in Europe. They found a way to decrease your carbon footprint will be lowered because you won't have any way to heat your home. So as far as the woke people, man, I mean, hey, you can go jogging. You might not have any energy with no food, but you won't have to worry about obesity. You can replace your Ukrainian flag, which you'll be using for a blanket. You can replace that with one of your multicolored rainbow flags or something, if that makes you feel like you're morally superior to somebody, but you're not going to be happy. Trust me, you're going to wake up and realize that these policies didn't make sense. But unfortunately, a whole hell of a lot of the Ukrainians won't walk up and do that. You know why? Because a lot of them will be dead. The Biden administration, when you think of the evil nature of this, they're wasting the lives of Ukrainians as nothing but cannon fodder, and lying to the American people, telling the people the Ukrainians are winning somehow. And American people, sadly enough, are so propagandized they believed it. They've commanded the European idiots to decimate their own economy and move their citizens back to the Stone Ages. They'll be wandering around, living in caves, communicating with a series of clicks and unintelligible clicks and grunts. Europe is heading back to the Stone Ages. So you might as well get ready. You're going back to the Stone Ages because that's what Joe Biden has for you. And your leaders have said, okay, we're going back to the Stone Ages. So instead of having names like Ursula von der Leyen, it'll be like grog, because that's the kind of names they had during the Stone Ages. Grog. There'll be a lot of people in Europe named things like grog. One syllable, easy to pronounce. Then the truth is, in the Stone Ages, you didn't have a big vocabulary anyway, so grog would get it done. You know, you'd point to anything. I guess everything was grog. You just like, you see a saber tooth, hey, grog, grog. You're pointing at the guy. If he doesn't move, you know, he doesn't know what it is. He doesn't understand that that particular version of grog means saber-toothed tiger. He gets eaten. And then you go back and you see your little tribe. What happened to grog? Grog. That means grog was eaten by a saber. You know, see, it really, if you think about it, communication is going to be easy for the people of Europe because everything's going to be grog, because their asses are going to be back to the Stone Ages by next winter. And, you know, they'll be eating grog because whatever they eat, it's all called grog now. And that's what the Biden administration has brought to you. And that's what Ursula von der Leyen, first of all, if you're being led by somebody whose name is Ursula von der Leyen, she's probably a Nazi anyway. Or Bojo, Boris Johnson. Do you see this guy's hair? If you're being, how could you put people like that in office? Although Ursula von der Leyen, they didn't put her in office, but whatever the hell. How can you follow somebody like that? You've got to all just wake up one day and just say, well, who the hell is this? No, this is not going to work. This person's an idiot. Ursula, what's the other one's name? Liz Truss? Really? I don't know. I love the European people. I really do. But some kind of way, something has went terribly wrong in Europe. Something has gone dramatically wrong. And don't feel bad. We got Biden and Kamala Harris. Who are we to talk? You got Bozo the clown, Liz Truss, and then you and Olaf Schultz and these kind of mutts. And over here, Kamala Harris. Really? Really? Joe Biden, this guy is mine. His brain is Swiss cheese. He's shaking hands with the invisible man. He's confused. He's a clown. He's a joke. And he is an embarrassment to the United States. And he represents the fall of the U.S. empire. When the U.S. empire gets to the point that your country is putting a demented old fool and a woman with the intellectual capacity of an umbrella in a windstorm, you're done. We're done. So as much as I say about Europe, and I say you guys, what are you out of your minds putting these clowns in? I only can say that because I already know that we are out of our minds. In that, when the system only gives you the option of Trump and Biden, you got to overturn the system. At that point, you got to say, time out. Whoa, I just went to the polls and I saw two names, Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And the system's like, yep. Which one will it be? You got to say pitchforks. And does anybody have a light? Why? Because I'd like to light this torch up because we got to storm the castle gates.